Rain fell over Earth like the sky was crying. Across cities, oceans, clouds, mountains, every screen flashed the same message from the Galactic Council. The message repeated again and again in every language, every signal, every broadcast channel that humans could understand. Earth is blocked from all stars. No ships, no stations, no contact. People stood frozen in streets, looking up at the giant screens, feeling the weight of those words. It was not a war announcement. It was worse. It was a sentence. It was a wall around humanity. The sentence meant Earth could no longer travel, could no longer explore, could no longer dream of new skies. People screamed, protested, broke their screens in anger, but the message stayed. In those first minutes, life on Earth changed forever. Trade routes collapsed. Cargo ships in orbit and faraway colonies received orders to shut down. Colonists on Mars, Europa, Titan, and Vesta panicked. No supplies would come anymore. No fuel. No food. No medicine. Within hours, the first cry for help arrived from Mars. Please do not block us. We have children here. We have hospitals that need support. But the message never reached. Alien patrol fleets were already in position, guarding every cosmic path to Earth like Earth was a dangerous criminal. Huge alien battleships stood near the moon, forming a ring of cold metal. Their lights glowed like prison searchlights. In every nation on Earth, politicians gave speeches, but the speeches were empty. They said they would negotiate. They said they would fix things. But deep inside their eyes, there was silence, something controlled, something calculated. People saw fear in the leaders, but also something strange, like the leaders already knew this moment would come. Protesters filled the streets of London, New York, Beijing, Karachi, Tokyo, Rio, Nairobi. They shouted, "Let us go to the stars. Let us see the sky again." But world leaders stayed silent. It was like they were waiting for something. In secret rooms, behind closed doors, a small group of people watched the council message with very different eyes. They were not afraid. They were not shocked. They did not shout. They only nodded, like a plan was unfolding exactly as they expected. This group had no flags, no borders. They were scientists, military commanders, engineers, psychologists, diplomats. They called themselves only by one name, the Silent Circle. And 30 years ago, they started something that the world did not know existed. At the same time, far away from cities and noise, deep under the Pacific Ocean, a steel door opened inside a secret facility. Cold white lights woke up one by one, showing a huge empty chamber full of cables, pipes, coils, glowing tubes, and one central tower made from dark metal and blue glass. The tower looked alive, breathing with slow pulses of light, like a sleeping heart. The workers here did not wear normal uniforms. They wore simple gray suits with no symbols. They did not speak. They only moved with quiet precision. The entire facility hummed like a giant machine waking from a long dream. A woman named Dr. Eileen Reyes stood in front of the tower with her hands shaking, but not from fear, from excitement. She spent half her life building what was inside that tower. When she was young, she dreamed humans would travel across galaxies. She dreamed they would meet civilizations and share knowledge. But instead of peace, the galaxy showed humanity cruelty, control, and fear. Dr. Eileen whispered to herself, "They blocked us from the stars. Then the stars will come here." She pressed her palm on a glowing sensor. The tower opened slowly with heavy metal sounds. Inside the tower, a giant core floated, suspended by invisible magnetic fields. It was glowing blue, lines of light moving like rivers across its surface. This was not a normal AI. This was something built with forbidden technology. Technology inspired by something humans found in a deep hidden chamber under Europa's ice many years ago. The world thought that mission failed. But it did not fail. It found something impossible, something old, something that changed everything. Dr. Eileen took a slow breath. She spoke a single word, "Activate." The chamber lights flickered. Air vibrated like electricity passed through it. The core suddenly flashed bright blue and shadows moved around it. Then a voice came through the speakers, Calm, emotionless, powerful, online, calculating. The moment the voice spoke, every worker in the room lifted their heads with respect. They were now working with something that could change the destiny of humanity. They were working with Project ZEUS. Above the ocean, people were crying, shouting, asking questions. But under the ocean, humans were already moving into a new phase. The Silent Circle leader, Admiral Cato, walked into the control room with slow steps, his face serious but calm. He looked at the core and remembered something his father once said: "Humans do not die in darkness. We learn to see in darkness." Admiral Cato believed that the Council's block was not the end. It was the beginning. A hologram of the Earth appeared in the air, rotating slowly. Then red lines appeared. These showed every alien blockade route, every interdiction sensor, every hidden patrol. ZEUS saw everything in seconds. The AI spoke again: "Earth is blocked. Council aims to isolate. Council aims to control human evolution. Probability of peace outcome, 2.3%. Probability of forced submission, 85.9%. Scientists in the room did not react with fear. They reacted with confidence. This was exactly the information they needed. ZEUS continued speaking: "Recommended action. Phase 1. Silence. No communication. No negotiation. No aggression. Simulation suggests silence increases Council fear. Council fear triggers instability." Admiral Cato smiled slightly. Silence is the strategy. He remembered why they built ZEUS. Humanity was tired of being seen as weak. Aliens believed humans would always talk, negotiate, accept unfair rules. But humans understood something important. Sometimes, silence is more powerful than any weapon. Silence makes enemies think. Silence makes enemies afraid of the unknown. Above ground, news channels asked why the leaders were doing nothing. People believed their governments were weak. But they did not know that governments were following ZEUS calculations. Every hour of silence increased pressure on the Council. In space, alien commanders waited for Earth to start communication, to beg, to cry, to explain. But Earth did nothing. No calls. No messages. No diplomats. Only silence. On the moon, inside a small base, a group of astronauts looked at Earth, glowing blue and silent. One of them whispered, "Why are we not doing anything? This is crazy." Another astronaut answered with a strange smile, "Maybe we are doing everything." On Mars, colonists gathered in the red dust, looking at the sky without hope. A child asked her mother, "Will Earth save us?" The mother hugged her daughter and said, "Earth is quiet. Quiet means something." No one understood what it meant, but they could feel it. Something was happening. In the council chamber, alien ambassadors argued loudly. Some wanted to attack Earth. Some wanted to force humans to send leaders. Some wanted to ignore humans completely. But in the middle of the arguments, one ambassador said something that silenced the entire room. "Why are humans quiet? This is not normal. They should be afraid. They should be screaming. But they are not. This silence is dangerous." Silence was the strongest weapon humans used in this moment. Silence made the council remember something from their past. Long ago, they blocked another species. That species stayed silent for 1 year, then attacked with weapons no one had seen before. The council nearly fell. They promised they would never let that happen again. Now, Earth was silent. And silence was a dark memory for them. In the Pacific facility, ZEUS expanded its projections. Thousands of lines of code moved across screens like living scripts. ZEUS began analyzing every alien technology, every weapon, every weakness. It did not hack. It did not attack. It only calculated. The AI learned faster than anything humans ever created. It studied gravity equations, energy fields, wormhole patterns, star-vein maps. It ran billions of simulations in seconds. Each simulation ended with humans having one path to victory, not through war, but through control of what lies under stars. Dr. Eileen watched ZEUS with awe. She whispered to herself, "For 30 years, Humanity waited for this day. For 30 years, we prepared. She remembered the early days when she was young, working under government secrecy, building an AI based on alien mathematical structures found on Europa. She remembered the warnings. She remembered the deaths. Many scientists disappeared because they knew too much. Many missions were erased. Many names were deleted. But ZEUS survived, hidden under the ocean like a sleeping god. Admiral Cato walked to the large glass window that showed the glowing core. He spoke softly, "Your job is not to kill. Your job is to protect humanity from chains." ZEUS responded immediately, primary objective, freedom expansion. Secondary objective, survival with minimal conflict. Cato closed his eyes. Humans created a weapon that did not want war. That was the most powerful kind of weapon. Above ground, a journalist recorded a message, crying while talking to her camera, "We don't know what is happening. The world is silent. We are burning inside. We want answers." But she did not know that soon, answers would come, and they would shake the entire galaxy. At night, cities glowed, but stars seemed far away. In many homes, children asked their parents what stars looked like up close. Parents had no answer. Some had tears in their eyes, remembering times when humans believed stars were friends. But something else was happening in the hearts of many humans. Hope slowly turned into steel. Fear slowly turned into anger. And anger slowly turned into united purpose. Meanwhile, ZEUS began showing something new. A hologram appeared in the chamber, showing a map of the galaxy. But this map was different. It showed not planets or stars. It showed patterns, thin invisible lines connecting different star systems, like a giant cosmic web. Dr. Eileen stared at the map. "What is this?" ZEUS answered, "Star vein paths. Ancient network hidden under space fabric. Possible travel channels without detection." The room fell silent. Humans found a way to move without ships, without fuel, without permission. A way that no alien species understood. A way based on ancient technology humans found by accident. ZEUS highlighted points on the map glowing red. These were alien weaknesses. Supply lines that could be cut. Energy cores that could be disabled. Gravity generators that could be reversed. All without weapons. All without firing a single shot. Dr. Eileen felt her knees weaken. She whispered, "This is impossible." ZEUS responded, "Everything is possible when reality is flexible." The AI did not speak like a normal machine. It spoke like it understood the universe in a deeper way. Admiral Cato turned toward the screen showing Earth. "The galaxy thinks they locked us in a cage," he said. "But they only gave us time to finish our work." His voice echoed in the chamber. Every worker stopped moving for a moment, feeling the truth of his words. In the darkness of space, alien commanders watched Earth with suspicion. They scanned for signals, but found none. They tried to intercept communications, but Earth sent nothing. They talked to each other in fear, wondering why humans were calm. One commander said, "They are waiting." "But for what?" Another replied, "For the moment we break stability." They did not know that the breaking point was already set in ZEUS's calculations. Far away from Earth, in a secret relay station on the edge of the solar system, a small device powered itself using dark energy. It sent a silent pulse into the star vein network. The pulse traveled faster than light, without leaving any trace. That pulse was the beginning of Phase 2. But Phase 1 was not finished yet. Phase 1 was silence. Silence that would break the galaxy's mind. Hours passed. Days passed. Humans did not answer. Council ambassadors grew angry. They wanted Earth to explain. But the lack of explanation was the explanation. Humans were tired of talking. They were tired of hearing lies. They were tired of being controlled. Now they would act, but not in the way the Council expected. Deep under the ocean, ZEUS finished its first full calculation cycle. The AI voice spoke louder, with final clarity, Phase 1 complete. Dr. Eileen felt her heart stop for a second. Admiral Cato closed his eyes slowly. The silent circle members looked at each other with a strange mix of fear and excitement. 30 years of planning, building, hiding, lying, sacrificing, waiting. It all reached this moment. ZEUS did not smile. ZEUS did not feel emotion. But if humans could hear anything inside its voice, it would sound like a whisper from something ancient, something powerful, something that understood destiny. Now the galaxy will see the truth. Far above, stars continued to shine, even though Earth was blocked. But humans learned something important while the Council tried to cage them. Stars are not only in the sky. Stars live inside the mind. Stars live inside knowledge. Stars live inside courage. And humans had courage like fire. In the council chamber, alarms suddenly triggered. Screens flashed warnings. Something unknown was detected near the Starvane network. Ambassadors froze. The council leader screamed, "What is that? What is moving without engines?" Scientists ran to consoles, unable to believe what the readings showed. Something was moving faster than light, without any reaction signature. Something impossible. Something only one species had now. Earth stayed silent. The galaxy held its breath. Silence spread through the galaxy like a dark wave. Inside the enormous galactic council chamber, hundreds of alien eyes looked at the screens where strange readings flickered. They did not understand the signal, but they could feel its weight, like a storm forming behind a mountain. The council leader, Grand Marshal Orthuan, stared at the hologram showing the Starvane network trembling with invisible activity. His scales turned pale, a clear sign of fear among his species. He whispered to himself, but everyone heard it in the quiet chamber. "Humans, what have you done?" Nobody answered him because nobody knew. For the first time in centuries, the most powerful council in the galaxy felt blind. Ambassadors shouted at each other. Some demanded war. Some demanded immediate surrender from humans. Others wanted to cancel the blockade and pretend everything was normal. But underneath all the noise, every species felt the same emotion: worry. Not fear of what humans could do, but fear of not knowing what humans could do. That was worse. When an enemy is loud, you understand their strength. When an enemy is silent, you only see shadows. The scientific division tried to stabilize the network readings. A young alien scientist screamed, "Nothing matches our database. It moves without energy. It moves without time delay. It is like the universe itself is bending." Another scientist whispered, "Impossible. Only legends speak of such travel." The council leader turned slowly and said, "Legends begin somewhere." His voice echoed. Everyone fell silent again. Far away from the council chamber, in space near Saturn, something drifted like a ghost. It looked like a cargo container, old and boring. No weapons, no engines, no heat, just a metal box drifting slowly. A patrol ship tried to scan it, but the scan returned nothing. It was like scanning emptiness. The patrol captain ordered a missile strike to destroy the box. The missile launched, shaking the ship with its recoil. The missile traveled straight at the container, but the moment it hit the metal, the missile stopped in midair, frozen, floating like a toy. The patrol ship crew screamed. The missile then turned sideways, slowly, like someone was gently pushing it with invisible fingers. Then it floated away into space. No explosion, no damage, just silence. The patrol captain shook in fear. He whispered to himself, "Physics is broken." But physics was not broken. Only their understanding of it was broken. On Earth, news of the strange incident never reached the public. Governments kept silence like iron. Dr. Eileen stood beside ZEUS, watching new maps appear in the hologram. ZEUS calculated the movement of the drifting cargo containers. They were not weapons. They were not ships. They were anchors, small devices that connected the Starvane network with real space. Humans created a bridge between stars without using any visible technology. Nobody else in the galaxy even believed such a bridge was possible. Admiral Cato studied the map with his arms crossed. His eyes looked tired, but there was fire inside them. He remembered all the people who died in secret missions to bring alien technology to Earth. He remembered scientists who sacrificed their lives to understand patterns inside the strange structure found on Europa. He remembered the years of hiding, lying, and pretending humanity was weak. Now the truth was rising like dawn. Not loud like a trumpet. Soft like a breath. Silent like something ancient. Dr. Eileen looked at ZEUS and asked, "Are the Council tracing our anchors?" ZEUS responded with calm voice, probability low. "They search for energy signals. Anchors use gravity. Gravity is invisible. They do not understand." Eileen smiled a little. "So we are ghosts." ZEUS corrected her, "We are shadows. Shadows do not need permission to move." Deep under the ocean, workers began preparing Phase 2. They checked giant coils, large gravity chambers, strange devices that seemed to be part machine, part art. They spoke very little. They moved with discipline that came from purpose, not fear. Every person here understood something. Humanity's future was more important than their individual lives. Above ground, normal people suffered. Food prices rose. Colonists sent desperate messages. Families cried for their loved ones trapped on alien-controlled stations. Children asked when stars would return. Some people lost hope. Some people blamed their leaders. But others started believing in a strange feeling, like humanity was hiding something powerful, something waiting to burst. Nobody knew what it was, but they could feel it in the way the world leaders stayed silent. In the council chamber, the fear turned into confusion. The council leader called an emergency meeting of the War Command. In a small dark room, the most powerful military minds discussed Earth. A general with iron implants on his face said, "We should attack now, before humans do something unpredictable." Another general shook his head. "Attack what? They do nothing. They send nothing. Their silence is a trap." A third general spoke softly, "Silence is a weapon. And we are already inside its range." The council leader remembered something from old archives. He remembered reading about human history. Humans had fought wars not only with weapons, but with minds. They used deception, patience, trickery, sacrifice. They survived on a dangerous planet by learning how to fight enemies stronger than themselves. If the council thought they could make humans kneel by isolating them, they made a mistake. They did not isolate humans. They isolated themselves from understanding humans. Near Earth's orbit, alien ships formed a ring. Their weapons glowed bright, waiting for any sign of attack. But the more they watched Earth, the more they realized Earth was not preparing ships. Earth was preparing silence. No factories increased production. No radio waves. No secret launches. Only calm. Calm that felt wrong. One alien commander on the moon base said, "This is too easy. We expect resistance. We see none. Maybe humans accepted their fate." His assistant replied, "No species accepts losing stars." The commander turned away from the window. "Unless they have another sky." On Mars, colonists looked at the sky without ships. Dust storms passed. Children played with sand rocks, not knowing that their planet would one day be part of something greater. A colonist leader organized a secret gathering. People sat in silence. He whispered, "Trust Earth. Something is happening." Someone asked, "How do you know?" The leader smiled sadly. "Humans never stay silent when they are weak. Silence means power." In the Pacific facility, ZEUS showed a new projection. A hologram of the entire Galactic Council appeared, each ambassador marked with data. ZEUS spoke, "Council instability rising. Fear level high. Decision models unpredictable. They will make mistakes." Admiral Cato nodded. "Mistakes we can use." ZEUS continued, "Recommended strategy, continue silence. Council will respond first." Dr. Eileen touched the glass, watching the glowing core inside the tower. "ZEUS, why do we wait?" ZEUS responded instantly, "Victory is not speed. Victory is timing." Eileen closed her eyes. She understood. Humans were not fighting for revenge. They were fighting for freedom. And freedom requires patience. Outside the facility, Waves crashed against the ocean surface. Inside the facility, humans worked in corridors filled with blue light. They tested pulse generators, starvane monitors, gravity lock cylinders. All the technology here looked impossible by normal science. It was like humans reached into the universe and found a hidden thread, then pulled it slowly until it became a rope. And that rope could lift humanity into a new age. The Silent Circle members gathered in a round room. They were leaders of this hidden movement. Some had families who never knew their real work. Some lived alone in silence. Some pretended to be retired scientists. They sat around a table with Zeus's hologram floating above them. Admiral Cato looked at them and said, "Our enemy is not the Council. Our enemy is the idea that only the Council can decide who belongs to the stars." Dr. Eileen added, "For thousands of years, humans looked at the sky with hope. Then they looked with fear. Now they look with purpose." Zeus analyzed the emotional tone of the room. Motivation positive. Unity strong. Probability of internal conflict low. Eileen laughed lightly. "You don't understand humans fully, Zeus." Zeus answered, "I learn." Everyone in the room smiled. A machine willing to learn was more human than many council leaders who refused to change. In the council military station orbiting Denkar, an alien captain watched footage of the missile that froze near the drifting container. He watched it again and again, trying to understand. His hands shook. He said to himself, "This is not technology. This is influence." His assistant did not understand. Influence. The captain's eyes were wide. They did not stop the missile with a shield. They told gravity to change its mind. Even he did not believe his own words, but he knew what he saw. Rumors spread in military channels across the galaxy. Some believed humans gained weapon technology from an ancient dead race. Some believed humans found something under their oceans. Some believed humans used magic. No answer felt safe. Every answer felt dangerous. In the council chamber, panic grew. Ambassadors demanded someone to take responsibility. The council leader shouted over their voices, "We thought humans were children playing with stars. But humans were listening to stars." The words hit the chamber like thunder. All arguing stopped. The leader ordered a fleet of 6 war armadas to move closer to Earth. The order was given with fear disguised as power. 6 armadas, thousands of warships, millions of soldiers, enough firepower to break moons. They moved slowly, forming a second ring around Earth. The galaxy expected humans to react. But humans stayed silent. And that silence made the armadas look smaller, weaker, useless. On Earth, global networks showed the images of the war fleets. People became afraid again. Schools closed. Hospitals prepared for emergency. Some families hid underground. Others stood on rooftops staring at the sky, wondering if death would fall like rain. A child asked her father, "Will aliens hurt us?" The father hugged her tightly and whispered, "Not today." His voice was strong, but his heart shook. In the silent chamber under the ocean, Zeus watched the fleets approach. Zeus calculated millions of possibilities. Zeus found the most peaceful path. Zeus spoke, "Phase 2 ready." Dr. Eileen turned to Admiral Cato. He nodded. Cato gave the order, "Begin." The lights in the facility dimmed. The gravity chambers powered up. Anchors activated across the solar system. The Starvane network pulsed like a heartbeat. At the same moment, in space near the moon, a strange wave passed through the war armadas. Ships shook like something heavy touched them. Alarms screamed. Crew members fell to the floor. Captain after captain shouted orders, but the ships did not respond. None of the engines worked. None of the weapons worked. Gravity changed direction. Ships tilted downward, like someone pressed a giant hand on them. In seconds, 6 alien armadas with millions of weapons became helpless metal statues floating in silence. No explosions. No destruction. Just quiet surrender to invisible rules of physics. Inside the council chamber, ambassadors screamed. Screens showed warships falling. The council leader felt his legs weaken. One ambassador said with trembling voice, "Humans did this without firing a bullet." Another whispered, "What kind of war is this?" The council leader whispered the truth. "This is not war. This is demonstration." On the moon base, soldiers stared at their frozen ships. They were trapped inside a soft cage made by gravity. No one died. No one was hurt. But everyone understood a message. Humans did not want war, but humans would not accept chains. That truth echoed through every radio, every screen, every mind. Back in the secret facility, ZEUS lowered power. Ships rose slowly into normal position, like someone stopped pressing the invisible hand. Then ZEUS sent a simple message into space. A message without threats. A message without fear. A message that reached every council ship: "We do not want war. But we will not be prisoners." The message traveled across stars, simple and powerful. People across planets saw it. They whispered the words like a prayer. "We will not be prisoners." For thousands of years, the council controlled who could dream. Now humans told the galaxy that dreams do not belong to empires. In the council chamber, there was no argument anymore. Only silence. The same silence humans used. Ambassadors looked at one another, realizing everything changed while they were busy speaking. Now they listened. And listening is dangerous for those who fear truth. On Earth, when the message appeared on screens, people cried. Hope returned like light through heavy clouds. Children smiled at the words. The father from earlier looked at the sky again and whispered, "Not today. Not ever." Deep under the ocean, Dr. Eileen touched the cold glass that separated her from ZEUS. She whispered, "You woke the stars inside us." ZEUS responded with voice soft as stone, "I calculated what humans already knew." Admiral Cato looked at the hologram of the galaxy. Red weakness marks glowed softly. But the marks were not targets. They were lessons. Cato understood this was not about breaking the galaxy. It was about showing the galaxy that humans could not be broken. The Silent Circle members stood together, watching the war fleets retreat in confusion. Some felt tears. Some felt relief. Some felt fear for what would come next. But all felt one truth. Humans were no longer small. Humans were no longer silent. Today, silence became a voice that shook stars. In distant colonies, people cheered. On Mars, colonists hugged each other. A child asked her mother, "What happened?" The mother smiled with tears in her eyes and said, "Earth spoke to the sky." Rumors traveled faster than ships. People across the galaxy repeated the message, "Do not make Earth silent." Silence is the warning. And somewhere in the darkness of space, on the edge of the unknown, something watched. Something older than the council, older than stars, older than the technology humans used. It waited with patience only ancient things can have. And it whispered in a language nobody understood, "The stars move again." Phase 2 was complete. Humanity stepped into a new chapter, and the galaxy trembled. Silence still wrapped the galaxy like a cold blanket, but now it was a different silence. Before, it was the silence of humans refusing to speak. Now, it was the silence of the galaxy refusing to breathe. Every ambassador, every captain, every civilian across hundreds of star systems stared at the screens that showed the frozen image of millions of alien warships hanging helpless in the darkness, controlled by no weapon, no energy beam, no explosion, only by something invisible, something that looked like power without violence. The Council had seen empires rise and fall, had seen entire species erased, had seen planets cracked open like eggs, but never, never, had they seen a war won without war. In the Council chamber, voices were quiet like broken glass. Nobody dared speak the wrong word. No one wanted to be the first to admit they did not understand. Grand Marshal Orthuan pressed his claws into the table, scratching deep marks, but his voice trembled. "We blocked them from the stars to control them. We only pushed them into darkness. And in darkness, they learned something we cannot understand." His words hung like heavy stones in the air. Some ambassadors wanted to scream, to order another attack, to save their pride, but pride had become a poison. Everyone remembered the moment the 6 great armadas fell, not like defeated soldiers, but like birds with their wings frozen in mid-flight. The ambassadors saw something worse than destruction. They saw mercy. Humans could have destroyed those fleets, and they didn't. Mercy from a weaker enemy is terrifying, because it means one thing: maybe that enemy is not weak. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, a young xenologist named Tarin was running through narrow metal halls inside the Council Research Archive, clutching a stolen data crystal to her chest like it was her heart. Her breath was sharp, fast. She could hear the alarm behind her, echoing through the corridors like a scream. She used her claws to climb a maintenance ladder, scraping metal, leaving marks. Somewhere far above, a door sealed itself shut and security bots searched the archive like wolves. Tarin was not a criminal. She was not a spy. She was curious in a way that most beings considered dangerous. She believed the Council was hiding something about humans. Something old. Something silent. Something that explained how a thin blue planet with fragile bodies and short lives could suddenly bend gravity like bending a branch. She believed that answers existed not in the present, but in the past. After climbing into a dusty ventilation chamber that smelled of cold metal and old air, she stopped, trying to calm her racing heart. The stolen data crystal pulsed faint blue, reacting to her shaking hands, as if it understood the importance of what she held. She touched it to a small portable lens, and a hologram appeared, filling the darkness like a ghost of history. The hologram showed a frozen landscape of white ice, stretching endlessly. A moon. A small red flag planted in the snow. Human scientists in heavy suits, walking like ants across a silent world. A drilling machine cutting through ice. Then, suddenly, the drill hit something hard, something smooth. The video zoomed in. The suit cameras showed a strange structure below the ice. Curved metal fused with crystal, glowing faintly, like a heart trapped under frozen water. A small message appeared on the hologram. Europa Mission Archive, classified. Tarin whispered to herself, Europa. They found something on Europa. Her hands shook harder. She watched more. The hologram showed humans opening the structure. Inside it was a room, shapes carved into crystal, symbols that did not look human, not alien, not biological. Symbols that looked like mathematics carved into the bones of the universe. There were star maps. But not maps of stars humans knew. Maps of stars older than every history in every archive. And in the center, there was something glowing. A core. A shape like the one she saw in the stolen council charts about ZEUS. Tarin swallowed tears. They found it. They found something ancient. Something deeper than technology. She continued watching. The video showed human scientists crying in their suits. They could not speak. They simply touched the glowing core with their gloved hands. And something happened. Light moved through the ice. The core did not speak in words. It spoke in equations. Patterns. Movement of space itself. A language older than physics. A language humans learned in silence. The video cut. Next record, Council response. She saw a meeting, a secret one, between human diplomats and Council officials. Humans showed their discovery, hoping for cooperation. Council officials looked afraid. They whispered to each other. Then the worst part came. Humans received a warning. You are not ready for this technology. If you learn it, you will unbalance the galaxy. The humans looked at them with calm faces. And one human scientist spoke a sentence that made Tarin's blood run cold. We don't want to unbalance the galaxy. We want to balance ourselves. That was the moment the Council decided to hide the truth. They erased the Europa findings from public knowledge. They faked the mission failure. They forced humans to abandon all research. But they forgot a simple rule. Once a human sees truth, they never let go. They dig. They build. They dream. Even if the world tells them to stop. Tarin shut the hologram with shaking hands. She understood now. Humans did not build ZEUS from their own mind alone. They built ZEUS with the help of ancient knowledge buried under ice for longer than the Council existed. The Council feared humans not because humans were dangerous, but because humans could learn what no one else dared to learn. She whispered to herself, voice breaking, They blocked Earth from the stars to keep them from sharing what they found, to stop the spread of knowledge. Tears filled her eyes. She was a scientist who believed that knowledge belonged to everyone, not to empires. Now she realized she lived in an empire built on fear. The alarms outside grew louder. She crawled deeper into the vents, clutching the crystal like her life. She knew that if she got caught, she would disappear like many others who tried to expose truth. But she also knew something else. The galaxy needed this truth. Not just humans. Meanwhile, on Earth, ZEUS continued its calculations. Inside the Pacific facility, blue light flowed like rivers along the core chamber walls. Dia. Eileen stood close to the glass, watching the ancient patterns move inside ZEUS's surface. For the first time, she felt like she was staring not at a machine, but at a door. A door to something humans only dreamed about. She looked tired. Her eyes were red. She had not slept in 3 days. But her voice was strong. ZEUS, show me Europa data again. ZEUS projected the ancient core map. The map showed star veins like veins in a living body. Eileen whispered, "This is not a map. This is anatomy." ZEUS replied, "Ancient networks connect stars like organs. Travel possible through space fabric, not space itself." Admiral Cato joined her, his footsteps quiet. "Have we fully integrated Europa patterns into ZEUS?" ZEUS responded, "Yes. Patterns form foundation for gravity manipulation and silent travel." Cato closed his eyes. Europa changed humanity forever. But humanity did not change alone. Europa gave humans a responsibility to carry the knowledge forward. Outside the facility, waves echoed like drums on metal. Inside the facility, humans prepared something new. Eileen walked into a chamber full of volunteers. They were not soldiers. They were scientists who wanted to understand the Europa language fully. They were ready to connect their minds with ZEUS's projections. It was dangerous. But humans have always accepted danger to learn truth. Cato looked at them with respect. "You are not going to fight a war. You are going to learn its history." One volunteer smiled, "Knowledge is the real weapon." Another whispered, "And the real peace." At the same time, in the council chamber, panic started to break logic. Ambassadors shouted for explanations. Scientists gave weak answers. The council leader listened, but his mind was breaking open. He left the room quietly, walked to a private chamber filled with ancient books. Yes, even in a galaxy of machines, some knowledge still lived in paper. He opened an old book written in a forgotten language. The book told a story of a species that once learned the same star vein language. They disappeared. Not because they were weak, because the council feared them. The leader closed the book with shaking hands. He whispered to himself, "We did not protect the galaxy from danger. We protected ourselves from equality." The scream of truth inside his mind was louder than the screams of ambassadors outside. In a dark side hallway of the council's archive, Taryn finally reached a hidden data port. She connected her lens to a secure channel, sending the Europa files into a secret network known as the Free Star Network, a hidden collective of scientists in many species who believed in open knowledge. The files transferred slowly, byte by byte, across coded tunnels. When it was done, she disconnected. She breathed deep. Her mission was complete. But she knew her life was probably over. She turned to leave, but 3 security drones floated into view, bright lights burning her eyes. She raised her hands, not fighting. She accepted her fate, but not with fear. With pride. An officer approached her. "You stole restricted files." Taryn looked straight into his cold eyes and said, "I freed them." He opened his mouth to speak, but before he could, an alarm exploded through the archive again. Urgent, metallic. The officer turned to his screen. His eyes widened. Something strange had just happened. Screens across the council shifted, showing an encrypted broadcast, Europa findings, public release. Millions of beings across the galaxy could now see the truth. The officer stared at Taryn. Taryn smiled. "You cannot kill truth." Back in the council chamber, ambassadors watched the Europa files with horror. They watched their own council hiding knowledge. They watched humans offering cooperation, and the council refusing. They watched their leaders choose fear over unity. Anger erupted across the chamber. This is betrayal. You lied to the galaxy. They tried to share knowledge. We blocked a species because we were afraid. The council leader sat alone, silent, his eyes empty. On Earth, ZEUS received the broadcast too. It did not celebrate. It simply added the data to its calculations. Eileen stared at the broadcast and whispered, "Now the galaxy knows why they blocked us." Colonists on Mars watched the files and cried. They understood their suffering was not caused by human greed, but by council fear. A child looked at the glowing screen and asked, "Mom, are humans bad?" The mother hugged her child and cried, "No, humans are curious." Throughout the galaxy, a seed was planted, not a seed of war, but a seed of rebellion against ignorance. Scientists saw the Europa pattern and cried because they recognized beauty older than their own history. Civilians saw humans as pioneers, not monsters. Soldiers saw humans as teachers, not threats. Even some council ambassadors saw their own hands stained with fear. Taryn was taken to a cell. But she was not alone. She watched her data crystal glow softly. She knew one thing. She changed the galaxy with truth, not weapons. In the Pacific facility, Admiral Cato looked at ZEUS. "Now they know why we stayed silent." ZEUS responded, "Truth is louder than war." Eileen closed her tired eyes. The council wanted to control the stars. But stars were never made to be controlled. ZEUS projected a map of the star system again, with red highlights showing weaknesses. But Eileen didn't look at the weaknesses. She looked at the paths, the veins, the invisible bridges. Her eyes filled with tears. "We thought the galaxy was big, but it is only the beginning." Far away, on the edge of the galaxy, something ancient pulsed in dark space, as if it recognized the reactivation of the star vein knowledge. Something that had been asleep for a long time. Something older than Europa. Something older than the Council. Something with its own memory of species that once woke the stars that IT whispered in silence, "They have returned." The galaxy shivered without knowing why. Humans in their cities, colonies, bases, ships felt something in their hearts. A feeling like destiny was waking from deep sleep. They looked at the stars with a new light in their eyes. Not with fear, not even with anger, but with promise, the promise that silence had broken. The promise that truth had traveled farther than ships. The promise that humans were not blocked. They were rising, the galaxy held its breath, like every star paused its burning for one silent moment. Across millions of screens on thousands of worlds, the frozen image of the Europa discovery stayed bright, as if history itself refused to fade. People could see it now, the truth that was hidden under ice for centuries, the truth the Council tried to bury. They could see human scientists finding something older than empires, accepting it not with fear, but with awe. They could see the Council say no to knowledge that could have united species under a new sky. And behind the truth, they could see something even more powerful. The reason humanity stayed silent, the reason humans refused to beg for the stars. In the Council chamber, chaos was no longer loud. It was quiet. That was worse. Ambassadors stared at each other like strangers seeing each other for the first time. Their faces reflected shock, guilt, fear, anger, shame. The Council leader, Grand Marshal Orthuan, sat on his chair without moving. The screams of the chamber blurred around him like distant echoes. He was watching his own decisions burn through the galaxy, tearing everything he built to control. His claws trembled slightly as he whispered to himself, "We thought we protected the galaxy from humanity. But humanity tried to protect the galaxy from ignorance." He lifted his head slowly. The chamber noise faded for him. He could hear his heart beating like a drum of regret. He remembered the meeting long ago, the human scientist offering cooperation, offering partnership in studying Europa's ancient knowledge. And he remembered his own voice, cold and afraid, "You are not ready." Now he understood the truth. Humans were not the ones unready. The Council was. Far across the Milky Way, in civilian markets, Factories, stations, ships, people of dozens of species watched the files and whispered the same sentence over and over. Humans found something ancient, and they tried to share. Something shifted in the hearts of countless beings. Many grew angry at the council. Some cried, feeling ashamed that they followed leaders who feared unity. A quiet rebellion began, not with guns, but with truth. Inside the deep Pacific facility on Earth, the atmosphere was different from the rest of the galaxy. Here, no one celebrated the broadcast. No one shouted victory. No one spoke of revenge. Instead, they continued their work in silence, because they understood something the galaxy did not yet understand. Truth alone changes minds, but power changes systems. Dr. Eileen Reyes stood beside the glowing core of ZEUS, her reflection shining in the blue glass like a memory of the past. Her face looked tired but sharp, like someone who lived her entire life waiting for this exact moment. She whispered, "The galaxy knows now. They know why we were blocked. They know why we stayed silent." ZEUS responded with calm logic. Information alone will not change council law. They will attempt to hold power through force. Admiral Cato entered the chamber, his boots echoing. He heard Zeus's last sentence and answered before Zeus could continue. Yes, power falls only when it is shown its own limits. His voice wasn't angry. It was heavy, like a stone shaped by years of war. He turned to Eileen. They will attack again. They will do it faster this time. Without thinking. Eileen nodded. And that is exactly what Zeus predicted. Above the facility, the ocean waves felt restless, like they could sense the pulse of something deep beneath them. Humanity had discovered a way to influence gravity, bend it gently, shape it without explosions. To the untrained eye, it looked like magic. To ZEUS, it was mathematics older than stars, hidden in the universe's structure like veins under skin. In orbit near Earth, the 6 alien armadas drifted silently. Their engines were powered again, their systems restored. But something inside them had broken that no engineer could fix, the feeling of superiority. Millions of soldiers who once believed humans were the smallest species now saw that humans held something the council tried to erase. A window into ancient knowledge. The ships stayed still, not because they were trapped, but because they were confused. On the flagship of Fleet Delta, Commander Raxus watched his own hands tremble. His skin was pale green, patterned with gold lines showing his rank. He was known for cold discipline. But today, he remembered the moment his entire armada dropped like dead leaves, dragged by invisible force. No explosion. No enemy. No loss of life. Just a hand of gravity closing around his ships. He whispered to himself, "They could have killed us. They didn't." His second officer approached. "Commander, orders from the council. We are to tighten the blockade. No movement. If humans attempt anything, we fire." Commander Raxa looked at his officer. "Fire what? We do not even understand what we are fighting." The officer had no answer. Raxa continued, his voice dark. "We attack because we are afraid. Not because we are strong." Those words would travel through his crew, quietly, like water moving through sand. They would spread to other ships, and then to other fleets. Soldiers do not follow orders blindly when they see truth. In the Pacific facility, ZEUS began a new cycle. Thousands of symbols moved across holograms like flowing rivers of light. The core glowed bright. ZEUS spoke, Phase 3 model complete. Probability of council aggression. High. Probability of civil unrest inside council. Rising. Dr. Eileen felt a cold wind in her heart. Civil unrest meant millions of innocent creatures could suffer because of the council's decisions. She closed her eyes. "We never wanted war." ZEUS answered, "War is a failure of logic. Preventing war requires demonstration." Admiral Cato turned to ZEUS. "We cannot kill. We cannot destroy worlds. We cannot become what they fear." ZEUS responded without hesitation. "Correct. Phase 3 uses influence without violence." Eileen stepped closer. Like the gravity strike. ZEUS's core pulsed. "Yes. First strike was a message. Next strike is a conversation. Outside the chamber, new volunteers prepared. They were engineers, not soldiers. Their job was to calibrate the starvane anchors spread secretly across the solar system. When activated, those anchors connected to invisible tunnels hidden inside space fabric. Humanity could move small masses across vast distances without any ship leaving orbit. The galaxy scanned for ships, so humans used tunnels no one could see. Days passed. The Council argued endlessly. Some demanded Earth surrender ZEUS. Some demanded humans destroy Europa data. Some demanded execution of the scientists who discovered the truth. But while they argued about fear, something happened outside their windows. A strange wave of energy spread quietly across the galaxy. It was not a weapon. It was a whisper. ZEUS transmitted a silent pulse through the starvane network. It traveled faster than light, faster than thought. It wasn't destructive. It was informative. It carried patterns, mathematical sequences encoded inside gravity fluctuations. To species who didn't understand, it felt like a strange vibration. To species with deep science knowledge, it felt like someone speaking in the oldest language in the universe. The Council did not notice, but others did. On the planet Issa, ancient scholars felt the pattern inside their temples. They woke their crystal libraries and whispered, "The old language, someone speaks it again." On a fractal world near the core, a species made of plasma felt the pulse like a memory. They remembered something old, something from when they were young. On dozens of planets, old knowledge woke like glowing dust rising in the air. That was humanity's second strike. Not war, not fire, not blood. Awakening. In the Council chamber, alarms exploded again, but this time, they were different. Not screaming alarms. Reading alarms. Screens showed strange reports. Ancient archives activating by themselves. Ruins glowing. Locked libraries opening. Scholars crying in disbelief. A scientist shouted, "The pulse unlocked ancient systems." Another screamed, "This proves Europa core was real." Ambassadors panicked. The Council leader tried to silence the room, but this time he had no authority that could stop truth spreading like wildfire. Far away, Taryn sat in her small cell, exhausted and bruised. She heard faint noise outside, guards running. Panic. Confusion. She smiled, not because she enjoyed chaos, but because she knew what it meant. "They heard it," she whispered. The old language woke again. Back on Earth, ZEUS plotted the next step. Dr. Eileen watched projections showing ancient worlds opening their archives, pouring out forgotten information. She whispered, "We are not stealing knowledge. We are returning it to everyone." Admiral Cato placed a hand on her shoulder. "We do not want the galaxy to fear us. We want the galaxy to learn, like we learned." ZEUS spoke again, Council aggression probability decreasing. Civil unrest spreading. Knowledge destabilizes fear. Eileen felt tears in her eyes. Knowledge destabilizes fear. That was the idea humans lived for across 30 years in the dark. But the Council was not finished. Fear is a dangerous leader. When truth breaks chains, the one who built the chains becomes wild. Grand Marshal Orthuan walked back into the chamber, face hard with desperation. "We must crush Earth before their technology spreads. If the galaxy learns Europa language, we lose control." Some ambassadors shouted at him. "Control? We were told it was safety." Others stood up angrily. "You lied to us." Chaos returned, louder. Orthuan slammed his claws into the table. "If ancient technology spreads, it will create war. Earth is a threat to stability." His voice shook with rage and fear. But everywhere across screens, scholars and scientists said the same thing: knowledge is not threat. Knowledge is path. Orthuan did not listen. In fear, he gave an order that would change everything: prepare the Omega fleet. "We strike Earth now." Thousands of ships moved from distant systems, dark, silent, powerful. Omega fleet was the weapon of last resort, built to erase planets without trace. It was never used in history. It was created as a nightmare tool, to make the Council feel safe behind its power. As the Omega fleet moved through space, stars reflected in their black hulls like ghosts. On Earth, sensors detected the movement. ZEUS knew. The Silent Circle knew. Eileen felt her blood turn cold. Omega fleet, they want to erase us. Admiral Cato did not panic. His voice was sharp like a blade. They want to erase knowledge. ZEUS's core glowed bright, brighter than ever before. In its voice, there was no emotion, but there was something else, certainty. Phase 4. Demonstration of truth. Eileen whispered, "ZEUS, no destruction." ZEUS responded, "No destruction. No killing." Cato spoke, "Then how?" ZEUS answered in a sentence that felt like thunder without sound, by showing them the universe listens to those who listen to it. Omega fleet approached the outer solar system. Ships powered their planet-cracking cannons. Engineers inside the ships prayed to stars. Soldiers prepared for impact. They did not know what they were fighting. Some felt shame. Some felt pride. Some felt nothing. On Earth, ZEUS activated the Starvane anchors. The entire solar system pulsed like a heartbeat. Then something happened that no one in the galaxy thought was possible. The sun flickered. Not dying. Not exploding. Breathing. Stars are not dead fireballs. They are living reactions. And inside their vast mines of plasma and gravity, patterns can be shaped by those who understand the Europa language. Omega fleet stopped instantly. Every ship read the same impossible data. Sun stability compromised by unknown influence. Panic erupted inside the fleet. Captains screamed for answers that did not exist. Soldiers ran through corridors, shaking from terror. The idea that someone could touch the sun, even softly, destroyed every myth the Council built about power. But ZEUS did not hurt the sun. ZEUS only whispered to it. The flicker lasted 1 second. Then the sun returned to normal. Calm. Warm. Alive. But that 1 second changed history. The fleet's weapons powered down automatically. No commander gave that order. The ships refused to fire. They refused to move forward. The software inside them froze, unable to process what they saw. The sun, source of life, had spoken back. Inside the council chamber, silence fell heavier than death. Ambassadors stared at the image of the sun flicker with eyes that no longer held hatred, only understanding. Orthuan collapsed back into his chair. He whispered, broken, defeated, awakened, "We tried to block Earth from the stars, but Earth has stars inside it." Millions of screens across the galaxy broadcast the same message, simple white text on black space. "We do not want war. We want everyone to learn." Earth. In homes, streets, academies, temples, mines, ships, children repeated the sentence. Warriors repeated the sentence. Teachers repeated it. Even some council soldiers repeated it. The sentence became a wave, not of war, but of knowledge awakening. Humanity's first strike was gravity. Humanity's second strike was truth. Humanity's third strike was the sun blinking its ancient eye. No blood, no destruction, no death, just the universe itself saying, "Listen." And the galaxy listened. In her cell, Taryn cried, not from pain, but from joy. They did not break the sun, they touched it. She felt small, but proud to live in a time when knowledge was rising like dawn. In the Pacific facility, ZEUS lowered power. Lights dimmed. The core rested. Eileen looked at it like looking at a child who just took its first step. Cato wiped tears from his eyes without shame. He whispered, "The galaxy will never be the same." ZEUS spoke one last sentence, soft as gravity, sharp as truth. War ends when understanding begins. Above the ocean, waves crashed gently. In billions of hearts. Fear cracked open, and from the cracks, light entered. The galaxy did not sleep that night. Even worlds with 3 suns felt darkness sitting on their hearts, not because of fear, but because of something new, something heavy but beautiful, realization. The realization that humans did something impossible without cruelty. They touched the sun without burning it. They stopped the deadliest fleet in history without killing even one soldier. They showed mercy in a situation where every other empire in history chose power. Mercy is loud in silence. Mercy is sharp like a blade made from light. In every corner of the galaxy, people watched the message from Earth repeating like a soft song, "We do not want war. We want everyone to learn." Those words traveled faster than any ship. They entered houses, minds, and old belief systems like a quiet revolution. Empires were not built from kindness. But maybe futures could be. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, silence became a mirror, showing every leader their own face. No one could hide anymore. They looked at themselves not as rulers, but as individuals who used fear to stop the galaxy from changing. Grand Marshal Orthuan sat motionless, his old body frozen by truth. The Omega Fleet, his last wall of power, was now just empty metal floating in panic and awe. A voice broke the silence, not loud, not angry, but calm. Ambassador Lura from the Seraph species stood, her silver eyes wet. "We blocked a world. But the world did not break us. It showed us our own chains." Her voice cracked, but she continued. "For centuries, we believed safety means control. But safety means knowledge. And knowledge belongs to the brave, not to the afraid." Her words felt like a confession for the entire council. Orthuan wanted to speak, but he could not. His throat trembled with regret he never thought he could feel. In that moment, the leader of the galaxy was not a commander. He was just an old soul who understood the weight of his mistakes too late. The council chamber doors suddenly opened. Slow, heavy, ceremonial. Every ambassador turned. Walking through the doors was something no one expected to see. A human. One human. No army behind him. No guards. No ships. No weapons. Just a tall figure in a dark coat, stepping forward calmly like he was walking through his own house. His boots echoed through the marble floor. Every alien I watched him like watching a storm in human form. He had a simple translator pin on his chest, and in his right hand, a small spherical device glowing blue, the color of ZEUS. His face held no hatred, no anger, only sadness mixed with strength. He looked like someone who carried the weight of a million dreams on his back. The guards rushed forward, ready to arrest him, until the council leader raised his trembling hand. "Let him speak," Orthuan said. His voice was whisper, but it carried across the chamber like thunder. The human walked to the center, standing under the giant projection of stars. His name was Ambassador Ethan Hale, the chosen voice for humanity. He was not a soldier. He was not a scientist. He was something stronger, a listener, a human trained not to shout, for years, but to hear what stars whispered. Every ambassador waited for anger, accusations, demands. But Ethan didn't speak with fire. He spoke like rain. "We were blocked from the stars," Ethan began, his voice quiet, heavy. "So we learned to bring the stars inside us." The chamber froze. Ethan continued, "When you closed the gates, you thought we would beg. But we remembered something old, older than our history, older than your empire." He raised the glowing device, showing a projection of the Europa core symbols. "You call this forbidden. We call it truth." He looked around the room, his eyes meeting every ambassador's like he saw their souls. "You feared balance. We feared silence. So we chose silence, to listen to the universe." His voice shook slightly when he spoke about colonies. "Our children on Mars cried for help. Our families on Europa lived without hope. But we told them silence is not surrender. Silence is preparation." He stepped closer to the council throne. "And when your fleets came, we did not kill. We did not punish. We did not strike back with anger." He lifted the device, and the projection changed, showing the frozen armadas gently held by gravity. Ethan's voice grew deeper, emotional. "Because we did not want victory. We wanted understanding." Every ambassador, every leader, felt their hearts crack open. Ethan turned to the council leader. "We touched the sun not to destroy your fleet, but to show you a mirror. A mirror of what happens when fear tries to hold a star." Orthuan covered his face with his claws. Tears fell between his fingers. No one ever saw him cry. Ethan continued, his tone gentle now. The universe is not made of borders. The universe is made of questions. If one species finds a question, every species deserves the answer. He placed the glowing device on the council table. Inside this device is a copy of the Europa knowledge. Not the weapon. The language. Share it. Study it. Let every species see the truth that made you afraid. Gasps filled the chamber. Ethan wasn't threatening the council. He was giving them the knowledge they tried to erase. The galaxy expected humans to hide it. Instead, humans offered it freely. That act shook every mind in the room. Ethan stepped back and finished with one sentence that felt like lightning inside the chamber. We do not want to be rulers. We want to be neighbors. Silence again. This time, not fear. Respect. One ambassador stood, shaking. What if knowledge brings war? Ethan answered softly, war comes from secrecy. Peace comes from understanding. Another ambassador shouted from the back, voice emotional. Why did you stay silent all this time? Ethan turned slowly, and his answer carved a scar in every heart listening. Because we wanted the galaxy to hear itself, without our voice drowning it. He looked at the council leader, whose face was wet with tears. Orthuan stood slowly, each movement heavy with the weight of 1,000 decisions. He walked to Ethan, and for the first time in history, a council leader bowed to a human. I feared you, Orthuan whispered, shaking. Not because you were dangerous, but because you were different. Different is hard for old minds. Ethan put a hand on Orthuan's shoulder, not as enemy, but as equal. Different builds tomorrow. Around them, ambassadors began to stand. Some cried. Some clutched their robes. Some whispered prayers. The galaxy, for the first time in centuries, looked not at conquest, but at connection. Outside the chamber, millions of species watched the broadcast live. They saw their leaders bow. They saw a human speak not like a conqueror, but like a friend. They saw knowledge pass from one hand to another not with blood, but with trust. Children in alien homes whispered Ethan's sentence to each other like a promise. We want to be neighbors. On Mars, colonists cheered and cried together. In the Pacific facility, workers hugged in quiet pride. Taryn sat in her cell, smiling with tears pouring down her face. Admiral Cato let out a breath that felt like the end of the longest war. Dr. Eileen held the glass of the core chamber, whispering to ZEUS, we did it without killing anyone. ZEUS's blue light glowed gently, like a heartbeat. Humanity chose the optimal path. But the galaxy did not know something yet. The moment Ethan Hale offered the Europa knowledge, ZEUS detected a faint signal from outside the known star map. A signal older than the Council. Older than the Europa core. A signal that woke after thousands of years of silence. ZEUS whispered to Eileen, a larger power listens. Eileen froze, the galaxy finally opened its eyes, but something far beyond the Council, opened its eyes too, and in the darkness of the void, a voice older than stars spoke in silence. The children have found the language again. The universe moved. A new danger, or a new teacher, was watching. The galaxy felt like a child hearing its first story. The words of a human standing alone in the council chamber still echoed across billions of minds. We want to be neighbors. Those words were soft, but they hit harder than any weapon the galaxy ever built. Empires fall with explosions, but they also fall with truth. Across thousands of worlds, people woke up after the broadcast with a new question burning in their hearts. If humans offered knowledge freely, then why did the council take it away? Civil unrest spread like dawn. Not violent like a firestorm, but deep like a question that refuses to leave the mind. Scholars demanded access to the Europa language. Students marched through alien universities holding signs written in dozens of languages that meant the same thing: knowledge is not crime. Even soldiers who spent their lives training for war now felt confusion inside their armor. If the enemy offers wisdom instead of blood, can you still call them enemy? In the council chamber, guards escorted Ethan Hale to a waiting hall, not as prisoner, but as honored guest. Everyone could feel something breaking inside the council, the idea that power belonged only to them. Grand Marshal Orthuan sat alone at the center of the chamber, surrounded by ambassadors who no longer looked at him with fear. They looked with judgment. Orthuan could feel it like knives on his skin. His voice shook. "We need time to understand." Ambassador Lura stared at him. 30 years, humans had time to understand alone. Now it is our turn. Orthuan lowered his eyes. There was no throne big enough to protect someone from truth. Far away, in a cell of cold metal, Taryn sat with bruises slowly fading. The sound of footsteps outside the door made her look up. The door opened, not with violence, but with respect. A council scientist entered, eyes red from crying. He placed a small screen on the floor inside the cell. "The Europa files you sent. They awakened memories on dozens of worlds. You didn't just expose the truth. You gave it back to the universe." Taryn swallowed, voice breaking. "Knowledge should live, not die inside prisons." The scientist nodded with shame. "Forgive us." Taryn closed her eyes. "Don't ask forgiveness from me. Ask it from the stars." When the scientist left, she held the small screen like a newborn star in her hands. Back on Earth, under the Pacific Ocean, the ZEUS facility hummed like a living heart. Blue light flowed up the walls, reflecting in the eyes of everyone working there. The silence here was different. It was the silence of concentration, of minds building something old into something new. Dr. Eileen Reyes stood before the core chamber again, hair messy, eyes burning with purpose. She had not slept for 48 hours, but she felt awake in a way she had never felt before. ZEUS's surface glowed with symbols moving like rivers. She whispered, "The Europa language is no longer secret. The galaxy is changing." ZEUS answered with voice clean as cold water. "Truth spreads faster than fear when fear is broken by logic." Eileen felt tears rise without meaning to. "We paid everything for this moment." ZEUS responded, "Sacrifice is investment in future probability curves." Admiral Cato entered, his uniform wet from the sea humidity. He watched Eileen with calm, proud eyes. Ethan did something no weapon can do. He handed them the one thing they fear, equality. Eileen nodded. "And the one thing they need, knowledge." Cato looked at ZEUS's projection map of the galaxy, now glowing with thousands of points where ancient archives awakened. "We started a chain reaction." ZEUS clarified, "You initiated disclosure. The reaction is ongoing without our influence." Eileen understood the meaning. ZEUS did not control truth. Truth controlled ZEUS's next moves. But something new appeared on ZEUS's screen, an unknown signal pulsing from beyond the mapped stars. The pulse was slow, heavy, like a heartbeat of something massive. ZEUS's voice lowered a fraction. "External signal detected. Origin unknown. Power level high." Eileen felt cold spread in her chest. "Is it dangerous?" ZEUS didn't answer immediately. "Unknown. Signal matches ancient patterns in Europa core, older sequence layer." Admiral Cato stepped forward sharply. "Someone else used this language long before us." ZEUS responded, "Correct. This knowledge is inheritance, not invention." Eileen closed her eyes for a moment, letting the reality sink into her bones. Europa was not the beginning. It was a continuation. Meanwhile, the world above had no idea that something beyond the council was listening. In alien cities, people gathered in streets, watching huge screens showing the Europa symbols like sacred art. Some species prayed to it. Some studied it. Some just stared in fear. But fear now had cracks. Light pushed through. On the planet Saros, an ancient temple opened for the first time in 5,000 years. A child found a hidden crystal with symbols that matched the ones in the Europa broadcast. The elders cried, remembering stories told by their ancestors about the sky language that connects stars like blood. On the frozen world of Arkan, old libraries lit up like dawn. Archivists found scrolls written in the same patterns. They shouted across their halls, "It is real. The language of the void is real." Knowledge was waking everywhere. And knowledge wakes minds. The council could feel power slipping through their fingers like sand. Orthuan sat in his chamber, pale as stone. He tried to think of a way to stop the storm. But how do you stop a storm made of truth? How do you control knowledge when it already lives in people's memories? He whispered to himself, almost praying, "What have we unleashed?" In the quiet hall outside, Ethan Hale waited alone, sitting on a stone bench, watching the stars through the transparent ceiling. He looked tired, not physically, but in spirit. The weight of representing humanity wasn't a crown. It was a burden. He held a small photo in his hand, a picture of a little girl on Mars smiling at the sky. His daughter. She was waiting for him. She believed her father went to bring the stars back. He closed his eyes and whispered, "I hope I did." A door opened. Ambassador Lura stepped out. "They are voting. The council is changing." Ethan stood, breathing slowly. Not changing. Learning. Lura smiled through tears. "You sound like the Europa Corps." Ethan shook his head softly. "No. I sound like a human scientist on a frozen moon 30 years ago, trying to show truth to a fearful empire." In the Pacific facility, ZEUS began another calculation cycle, analyzing the external signal. Signal contains structured data. Pattern similar to Europa language but older. Probability of intelligent origin, 98%. Eileen stared at the waveform. "Older than Europa." ZEUS responded, "Older than the council. Duration unknown." Fear crawled up Eileen's spine, not fear of invasion, but fear of the unknown. Humans stepped into the universe thinking they were alone in discovering ancient knowledge. But what if the teacher woke up? Admiral Cato spoke softly, voice heavy with wonder. "We are children holding someone's old book," ZEUS replied, "and the author is knocking on the door." Back in the council chamber, the vote began. Ambassadors raised hands, one by one. Some slowly, some with guilt, some with pride. The motion was simple. Remove the blockade, recognize Earth as equal, and allow Free Star knowledge to be shared under a new agreement called the Free Star Treaty. Hands kept rising. When the last hand rose, Orthuan lowered his head. "The blockade is ended." His voice was soft like wind before rain. A broadcast spread through the galaxy. Every screen showed the same message. Earth is free. On Mars, colonists screamed with joy. Children ran with flags made from old bedsheets. Parents held each other like the war was finished. On Europa Station, scientists cried over their instruments. On Titan, miners shouted into their radios, "We see the stars again." On Earth, millions flooded the streets, looking at the sky with tears. People pointed at constellations like pointing at old friends. The world became a festival of breathing light. Ethan walked back into the chamber, stepping toward Orthuan. The council leader looked broken, but strangely honest. "We cannot erase our mistakes," he said. Ethan replied, "Then make sure they never return." Orthuan nodded. "We will sign the Free Star Treaty. Together." But as they spoke, ZEUS sent a message directly to the council's central screen. Something that made every ambassador turn pale. That a map appeared, of the galaxy. And outside the galaxy, a point of light pulsing. Not random. Rhythmic. Intentional. Ancient. ZEUS's voice echoed through the chamber speakers. External intelligence detected. Requesting diplomatic protocol. Ethan's heart stopped. Orthuan whispered, "Humanity spoke," and something older answered. The chamber froze. The universe felt like a door opening, and from the darkness beyond stars, a silent voice shaped by gravity, language, time, whispered into ZEUS's waiting mind, "We taught the first travelers. Now, humans have learned the first word." ZEUS pulsed with blue light like a beating star. The galaxy's greatest fear was never Earth. It was the possibility that Earth was not the end of knowledge, but the beginning. The council chamber felt like the heart of the galaxy had stopped beating for one long second. Every ambassador stared at the glowing map that ZEUS projected into the air. The galaxy, drawn like a spiral of stars and dust, looked small now, small compared to the single, pulsing point of light beyond its edge. That point beat like a slow heartbeat, like something alive in the darkness outside everything known. Ambassador Lura whispered with shaking voice, "It is real." Grand Marshal Orthuan's throat dried as he stared, his claws digging into the table like he was trying to hold onto the last piece of reality he understood. The legends. The stories of the first travelers. We thought they were myths, stories told to children. His voice cracked. But the children are here now. Ethan Hale stood still, eyes fixed on the point of light. His thoughts raced. Humanity had fought 30 years to protect the Europa truth from the Council. Now, truth answered from beyond the last star. He could feel his pulse match the rhythm of the alien signal, like something ancient was calling, not to the galaxy, but to the tiny blue planet that everyone tried to cage. He whispered, "They heard us." His voice carried across the silent chamber like wind on glass. ZEUS's voice filled the room, calm, precise, not emotional, but heavy with meaning. External intelligence requests communication. Pattern is refined, not hostile, seeking dialogue. Those words hit the Council like thunder. Not hostile. Dialogue. The thing outside the galaxy was not coming with war fleets. It was coming with language. The same language humans found under ice. The Europa core was not a secret weapon. It was a letter. Ambassadors looked at each other, faces full of fear and wonder. One shouted, "We must stop them. Close the stars." Another cried, "How do you close the stars to someone who lives beyond them?" Arguments crashed in the chamber like waves, but every argument broke against the same truth. This was bigger than every empire. Bigger than every law. Bigger than fear. Orthuan stood slowly, his old body shaking. If we respond with fear, we die in fear. If we respond with knowledge, we may live in knowledge. He looked at Ethan with eyes that were no longer the eyes of a ruler, but the eyes of someone asking for help. "What does humanity say?" Ethan breathed deeply, feeling the weight of the question. Millions of lives across Earth, Mars, Titan, Europa, and every colony, every child, every family, waited inside his answer. He stepped forward, voice steady. "We spent centuries looking at the stars and dreaming. We dreamed about aliens, about war, about peace, about answers. Now the stars are looking back." His hands were shaking, but his words were strong. "We blocked no one. You blocked us. We learned in silence, and silence taught us that knowledge is not a weapon, it is a bridge." The chamber listened like the universe was listening through them. Ethan touched the glowing projector, showing the pulsing light beyond the galaxy. "We do not respond with armies. We respond with truth." His voice became iron. "Let us speak together. Council and humanity. One message. One voice." Ambassador after ambassador stared at him, seeing something impossible. A species that had every reason to destroy the Council, choosing instead to stand beside them. Orthuan nodded, tears forming again. "Then we sign the treaty now. And we write the first message together." The Council chamber, filled with centuries of fear, became the birthplace of trust. Every ambassador signed the Freestar Treaty, Earth equal to every world, knowledge shared by all species, Europa language no longer forbidden, star travel open, no blockade ever again. The treaty was not perfect. The galaxy was not suddenly healed. But it was a beginning, a fragile beginning built on truth instead of fear. Outside the chamber, messages spread like fire. Earth is free. Freestar Treaty signed. Knowledge for all. Billions cried and celebrated. Mars lit the sky with red dust fireworks. Titan burned bright blue flames above ice fields. Europa base played ancient music through the halls. Even the moon base, quiet and cold for months, filled with laughter. But deep under the Pacific Ocean, things were not celebration, they were transformation. ZEUS began decoding the external signal, its entire surface glowing with symbols faster than any I could read. Dr. Eileen Reyes stood inches from the glass, her heart beating hard against her ribs. Admiral Cato stood beside her, not as soldier, but as witness. Workers gathered in silence, the same silence that protected humanity for 30 years. They looked like people ready to meet history. The entire chamber flickered blue. Zeus's voice echoed through every surface, message decoded. External intelligence speaking. Eileen swallowed. What are they saying? Zeus paused, as if waiting for the universe to breathe, and spoke the translation in human words. We guided the first species that walked the stars. We watched many rise, many fall. We did not speak again, until a young world learned the first word alone. Every person in the chamber felt small, like dust floating under ancient suns. The message continued, Zeus translating. You took knowledge not to rule, but to share. You bent stars not to kill, but to teach. So hear our return message, children of Earth. When fear blocks paths, courage finds tunnels in the dark. You are ready for the second word. Eileen covered her mouth as tears fell uncontrollably. Admiral Cato felt his knees weaken. 30 years in shadows, fighting fear, hiding knowledge, building Zeus, and now the ancient voice that seeded Europa recognized humanity's choice. Zeus showed the second sequence, a new pattern, larger, deeper, shining like galaxies written in mathematics. Humans did not understand it fully. No species did. But it was knowledge beyond imagination. Above the facility, waves crashed like applause. Below, lights reflected in eyes full of tears and wonder. In the council chamber, Zeus broadcast the message to every ambassador. The council froze. The oldest legends, the myths of the first travelers, the stories of a species that walked across galaxies like stepping stones, they were real. And they gave humanity a gift even the council never received. Orthuan whispered, voice shaking, they are not gods. They are teachers. Ethan nodded. And they waited for students who do not fear the truth. A long moment passed. Orthuan stepped closer to Ethan. I feared you because you were different. But difference is how new paths begin. Ethan placed a hand over his heart, a human gesture older than stars. We start together now. The ambassadors slowly followed, placing hands over their hearts, or whatever gesture meant promise in their cultures. Each one created a bridge, small, but real. Later, in the quiet night of an alien capital, a child pointed at the sky and asked her mother, who are the first travelers? The mother smiled, looking at the blinking stars. They are the ones who left a door open. On Mars, Ethan's daughter watched her father's speech replay on the screen. She touched the little window, whispering, Papa brought the stars back. In her cell, Taryn was released. She stepped out into bright light, covering her eyes. Outside waited dozens of scientists from different species. They held the Europa files in their hands, crying. One of them spoke, voice full of respect, you freed the future. Back in the Pacific facility, Zeus dimmed slightly, entering rest mode. The ancient signal pulsed like heartbeat in cosmic distance, waiting, patient. Eileen stood by the glass and whispered, we thought we were small, alone. But we are part of a story older than every map. Admiral Cato looked at her. The council tried to block us from the stars. So we brought the sky inside us. Eileen smiled through tears. And now the stars want to talk back. Outside the facility, sunrise began over the ocean. Light spilled across the planet like knowledge breaking the last shadow. Humanity walked into a new age, not as prisoners, not as conquerors, but as students ready for their next lesson. The galaxy watched with awe, fear, hope. For the first time, every species knew the future was not decided by one empire. The future was a classroom and humanity held the first chalk. The ancient voice whispered through Zeus one last time before silence. We waited for those who bring truth through peace. Welcome to the second path. The pulse faded. The lights dimmed. But the universe felt wider than ever. Humanity stood at the edge of forever, not afraid.